I'm off Trot and I live in Ilminster, but I work down at Barrington Court, and I'm also a volunteer in Barrington Court. The main house is all decorated, we've got the reception all decorated. We're giving mince pies and mulled apple juice, which was made on the property this year, and we've also made 1,200 litres of cider for the first time on the property, which will be sold in the restaurant next year. So if anyone's interested, come along and try it for yourself.
I'm Matthew Applegate. I'm the Visitor Services Manager at Barrington Court. Barrington Court is a diverse historic manor house with gardens, orchards and parkland. There's a wonderful hamstone Tudor courthouse next to a brick-built stable block which was built about 100 years after that, surrounded by flower gardens and orchards. We're just in the Beagles Cafe, which is closed now because it's winter, but it's open during the summer season as a cafe where light lunches and soups and salads and soft drinks are served. And we have Christmas activities in here today.
Are you interested in our raffle for the cider flagon? It's a limited edition made by the Eels Family Pottery. The design on My name's Del Wiggins, and I've worked at Barrington Court for about 6 years. I'm retired, so I can spend quite a lot of time here.
What a nice thing it is as well, isn't it?
It's gorgeous, isn't it? It's such a lovely pot. It's the oldest large country property that the Trust bought. They bought it in 1907. And it's also very important because it's the only Trust property that's got a link with Gertrude Jekyll, the famous garden designer. She didn't actually visit here, and so she had the famous biscuit tin of soil that was sent up to her, and then produced the most wonderful garden plans, some of which were very elaborate.
I'm Christine Brain, I'm the head gardener at Barrington Court. I've worked here since 1976, when I came here as a student originally. Garden probably hasn't changed that much itself. It's changed because it's no longer a family garden. It's now a garden for 60,000 visitors. So in that sense, it's had to alter to become open for longer during the season, from March until the end of October nowadays. And again, with Christmas weekends as well, there needs to be more interest throughout the year. So it's had to evolve over that time. It originally was cattle yards. Back in 1907, when the Trust first acquired Barrington Court, it was really two very fine houses surrounded by farmyards, and the gardens were developed in the 1920s to plans supplied to Gertrude Jekyll, and the architect sent her the plans. She then filled in the designs that she required, and as far as we know, these plans were followed fairly accurately for probably about the first 10 years, from about 1925 to 1935. And then it evolved as a family garden, with the Lyle family gardening it until 1991. And then more recently, the National Trust have taken over. And so their sort of influence has been on the garden as well. We've got an area here that we're using to promote, I suppose, the produce that we have from the garden at this time of year. So we've got some ornamental gourds, some edible pumpkins, and a selection of the apples that we grow here. We have about 10 acres of orchard here. We've also got medlars, which are quite unusual. It's an Elizabethan fruit, and they're only really sort of ripe for use when they almost appear rotten. But they make a good jelly or a conserve. They have almost a sort of consistency of rotten apple, which isn't desperately appealing, but it actually makes a really good end result.
Here we are, so we don't know. This is my bit of magic. So we make it into, what does that look like? It does look like a sausage, doesn't it? Well, my name's Deirdre, and I'm here as a volunteer, and I'm making peppermint creams with the children. That's enough on there. That's enough, sweetheart. Now get your cutters. What are you going to do, a snowman or a snowball? I've worked here for about 6 years as the manageress of the restaurant, and this last year I've done volunteer work in the kitchens, decorating their cakes for them. We had a lunch on Thursday, which was 60 of us, and all the staff waited on us, and we had beef dinner and a pudding, and it was lovely, and crackers and hats, and it was nice. It was their way of saying thank you to us. And you can, when these are dry, like I told you to dry them on the trays, you can dip them in a little bit of chocolate. Oh, they're yummy like that. You want me to put a tickling in?
Well, we actually live in Leicestershire, but we've got a cottage down here in Norton so that we can be near the grandchildren. Mum and Dad are busy packing boxes because they're moving on Tuesday, so we knew they'd like to come. It's just a nice place, and the children like doing the children's activities, and they're doing this, making mint creams, rolling it out and making the shapes, and I've enjoyed that. Yeah.
I've got a Christmas tree with a star on top, some baubles on it, some Christmas tree and lots of glitter on it.
We come here quite regularly, but normally when things are on, special events and things. Well, it's very child friendly and not at all stuffy, which makes a good change, I think. And they can get as messy and as happy as they like, but it's a good place just to come if you need to get out of the house and let them run around the garden.
I'm normally a garden volunteer, so being inside is a treat for me. I have a little girl of my own at home, so I'm used to getting sticky and glittery. Our young friend there demonstrated that very well earlier.
Look at my A. I did an That's okay. My name's Helen Appleyard and I'm the assistant to the Visitor Services Manager. I did history at Warwick University. Because I'm quite imaginative, and that's what I like about history, and I like to be in a setting where I can imagine how people lived in that setting. It's more of a visual aid for people to imagine times gone in the past and that sort of thing. You sort of get a sense of, you can feel all the people over all the centuries who've lived here and worked here, and it's amazing. And it's also, I think, about having a sort of tangible link to our ancestors, and I think that's important for our identity, and I think everyone can take away something different from them and take away what they want to take away from it. But if someone who comes who hasn't maybe thought about the historical connection, who comes and then maybe does take that away with them, then that's all the better.
You meet so many visitors who've got very often wonderful tales to tell you about the property sometimes that you just didn't know existed. In fact, about a month ago, a visitor came and said, "Oh, I wonder if my name is still on the cupboard, on the shelf in the cupboard at the far end of the main corridor in the big house." So we went and looked, and there it was. He had been evacuated from Surrey with his school, and his name was still on the shelf where his clean clothes used to be put by matron, ready for the following week. And they're still there, which is brilliant.
What I love about working here is that you can be doing anything from one moment to the other. I've just undressed from being a hedgehog, a giant hedgehog, running around entertaining children or terrifying children. You can be dealing with first aid or marketing or any other of the million and one things that happens with 65,000 visitors a year visiting.